Okay. I don't know what happened there. It kind of froze just as I was about to start. So last session, we were looking at number format. This was the component that the web component roulette picked for us. At the risk of repeating myself, I'll talk about what we were about to get into with this. So the number format is kind of like this relative time element that we built for GitHub. This relative time element takes a date time, and it can also take a bunch of localization options, like all of these, and it feeds them into intel.relative date time, or relative date format. Intel relative date format. I'm in Chrome today, by the way. I spent the last few days in Firefox, but Firefox is my main browser, but thought I'd try Chrome for a little bit. So this is the relative time format internationalization object. It's like a method or a class that gives you like a way to format time, and it's like locale aware, like you can do localization and stuff. There's a bunch of internationalization objects, and one of them is number format, Intel number format. Something keeps dropping out. I think we're back. I think we're live. Okay, what did we miss? Intel relative time format. I think I went over that. Cool, we're back, says Nojo. Excellent. So local number format does a similar kind of thing but for numbers, but it can also do units, it can do currencies. I think it's really interesting because it does stuff like in this locale, the German locale, I believe, numbers, the thousands separator is a full stop or a period, and the decimal place is a comma, which is maybe slightly strange for you if you grew up in England or America, where the thousand separator is a comma and the decimal separator is a period. This kind of locale stuff is like very hard to get right without some kind of API, and this whole API just handles all this for you. It handles stuff like you can see here, where the currency symbol is on the right for certain locales, it's on the left for other locales. It also does some really cool stuff. So we went over this in the last, I'll zoom in a bit here, whoops, he says, and then resets. We went over this in the last session, but you can say Intel number format. We need to new it up, it's a class. You can give it a locale, you can give it a unit of bytes. I need to remember what the format is, which I should have kept. So you give it a unit of bytes, a style of unit, which is a bit awkward, and a unit display of narrow. And then you can say format 1024, I think. Oh, invalid argument. Is it byte? That's not what we want. I'll get there. 1 minute, please. I need to find this in my history because I decided to... Here we go. So, oh, you also need maximum, no, notation, compact. Yeah, there we go. So, oh, Nojo says, it's interesting hearing Canada, English and French currency formatting differs. Yeah, right. I think a lot of European languages format using the period as the thousand separator, and then English and like UK English and US English use a period as the decimal separator and a comma as the thousand separator. But I think like a large majority of the European languages, which includes French, uses them the kind of other way around, or maybe UK English and American English uses them the other way around. It's like driving on the left and driving on the right. You know, some countries just choose to be different. So yeah, the other thing that you can do with this, which I think is really interesting, is you can take a unit and almost round it. You can like display a rounded representation. I don't know if the same works for like meters. I imagine it does if you did meter. Yeah. So like 1,000, I mean, you know, 1,001 meters is equal to 1 kilometer. For folks in the US watching, a meter is kind of like, what, a yard or something? A foot? But it's a French foot. And a kilometer is like a mile, but it's a French mile. So yeah, so I think this is a really useful tool. And to do this kind of stuff, I mean, this is quite a bit of code to try and represent just the letters 1KB. But to do this in a reasonable way that is also locale aware is very, very difficult. And I'm sure you can pull in a utility function just to do the, like, you know, keep dividing by 1024 and represent it as different named units. But like the comma separations and stuff I think are really useful. So I was thinking we can make that as a web component. And so that's why we're here. What I think is really interesting about this as well is it will show us a little trick that you could, sorry, excuse me, a little trick that you can do in TypeScript. I seem to have the hiccups for some reason. A little trick you can do in TypeScript, which I quite enjoy, which is any class can implement an interface. So if you say implements until number format, this should just work. Well, I mean, it won't work. What it will do is it will give us a type error because it says number format element incorrectly implements interface number format. It's missing the following properties. Actually, this is the wrong thing. What we want is number format. Resolved number format options, I believe. Right, and so we've got this like locale numbering system, minimum integer digits, minimum fraction digits, and 2 more. And so this is giving us a hint that like this class should have all of those. And so we did a similar thing in this relative time element. If I go back to this into the source code of this. This is an open source element that we have at GitHub. You're welcome to use it. Quite a few people do, which is great. So we do the same thing in here, I believe. Yeah, see, this implements until datetime format options, which gives us a hint. It's really useful for developing because it catches out potential errors, but it's also really useful to give a hint to people as to the kind of API that you can expect from this element. I've done this a few times in various code bases where you can implement something like set, and then you add all of the methods. So set has like an add, delete, has, and a size getter. And so by saying that you implement set, someone can look at this. They don't have to read the entire implementation of the class, but they can say, oh, well, it's like a set. It's not necessarily a subclass, but it's like a set, and so I can kind of treat it like a set. This is really useful for doing stuff like virtualized lists or like some kind of in-memory representation of data that converts to an HTML element. But yeah, in this case, I think we want to do until number resolved, or actually I think we want number format options. I think that's the right one now that I think about it. Yeah, the problem that we might have here is that number format takes a style, and and HTML element has a style, but the HTML element style is CSS style. It's like, you know, something dot style, like el dot style equals, or el dot style dot background color equals, or something. So there's a way around this as well. We can just omit that from this interface. So we can say omit style from this interface, and then we should see that this this says it has no properties in common with style, but with omit number format option style, but the style tag has now been, or the style property has been omitted from this type. So we need the other ones though. So what are the other ones? So we need, well, I guess we're going to have to look it up now. MDN number format. We need to look at the number format signature here. And so we want to have, I guess, compact display. We'll probably have currency. So let's try currency. I don't know if you can see this, but my editor is really lagging, so I'm going to quit that and come back in. Hopefully this is better. Right, so this should now say, can we see here that this says void is not assignable to string or undefined. This is giving us a hint as to what currency is, because it already has this constraint that currency is a key in number format options, and so this has to return something similar to the type that number format options returns, you know, in which case it's a string. Anyways, this is going to return get attribute currency, of course, and we need the setter as well. And the setter is going to set, and the value is going to be a string, and of course we need to set the value. That one wasn't that useful with regard to this, but it does get kind of useful. Yeah, so we've already got a bit of a hint as well here, because currency in the number format options doesn't return null, so this always has to return a string, which is fine. We can just return empty string. Let's try the next one. So get currency display, and you can see my editor's now auto completing some of these things for me, which is handy. So I guess this is going to return this .get attribute currency, and we'll dasherize this to make it compatible with HTML kind of style. And again, we need to just return one of these. And we're going to make the setter. So this is value string. This is going to stringify the value. Why have we got a... Oh, because this should be set. Currency sign. This is where we can kind of hopefully get some interesting stuff going on. So if we say currency sign, we'll change this to currency sign. Oh no, that's still just a string. I think maybe Intel number format isn't typed so great. Let's have a look at the definition. What a fantastic, yeah, thanks for that. That's really helpful, Bim. Like, what are you doing? That's, maybe I can go to the definition. Right. So this, yeah, so currency display and currency sign are just string or undefined. Unit display, so these ones might be more interesting, so let's tackle these ones. So I'll just pop these in here. So if we take currency sign, I'll copy paste that and change this to unit. And now this is no longer a value of a string. Sorry, this is no longer a string. It's this value. This should be telling us off. I think this is because this is a syntax error. It should tell us off about this. It's frustrating that it isn't. I don't know if my TypeScript server has just died or something, but it should be telling us. But anyway, we can type this. So this is going to be short, long, narrow, or of course undefined. And this should be unit. And now we're getting a type error here because this is not a string is not assignable to this union type. This should only return. I think I'm mixing up unit and unit display. I absolutely am. You're quite right. Let's change this to unit display. Yeah, that's the problem. Right. So this let's format this. Get rid of that. Yeah, cool. So this error now is saying string is not assignable to the type short, long, narrow, or undefined. And this means because string is like, it could be any string, we need to normalize this value now. And so we were talking about this in yesterday's stream, but it's a good idea to just indiscriminately set the value that you're given. So if someone isn't using TypeScript, like they can put any string in here, and they can even allow undefined in here, which is fine because it's just going to stringify as the value undefined. If they really want to do that, they can do that. Then what we can do here is normalize this to one of these values, and that way if the raw HTML has like an invalid value, at least our unit display property can normalize that, and we can have acceptable values from this. And then we would only call this, rather than calling get attribute in the rest of the code, we would only call this getter. So we always got the normalized value. There's loads of fancy ways we could do this. We could like make this an array or something like that, but I like to just say const value equals this dot get attribute unit display, and then if value is equal to short, we can return short because that is a valid value. If value is equal to long, we can return long, and if value is equal to narrow, we can return narrow, and then we need to return some kind of default value, and so we can just return undefined because undefined is actually an acceptable value for this. What we might want to do is return the default that the local the Intel number format actually uses. So if we take a look at the way that the API works, why is this not clearing? This Intel number format object, it has a bunch of methods. One that for some reason you can't really see. There we go. It has this resolved options, and you can have a look at this to see what the full options that it has. So a lot of these are assigned by default, and if you don't provide them in this kind of options bag, then you'll get a default. And it also normalizes some. So if I were to say, if I said Intel number format ENGB in lowercase, it resolves that to an uppercase ENGB. So this is like a better, like this is a fully fleshed out version of the options that you've passed in, normalized to the display of or the data type that number format expects. Yeah, Firefox console's great. I shouldn't have picked Chrome. I just felt like changing browsers for it. I felt like Chrome wasn't getting a fair representation here. It gets a perfectly fine representation everywhere else, but hey. So the reason I went through this whole thing with the resolved option is we can look at the resolved options and we can see what the defaults are. And so for This is probably a terrible example because for unit display, it isn't defined in the object. So we can just return undefined, which is great. Let's keep going with some of these. So we've got currency, we've got unit display. Let's do compact display, I guess. Oh, that definitely completed a lot for me. I don't actually want that. So we'll have a get compact display, and this should give us that type information that we were after now. Yeah, so this is what I was after. This is why it's useful to call this implements type here, because now in this type information we can see, apart from these lint errors, we're getting this type error which says that property compact display in number format element is not assignable to the same property in number format options. The type that this has is void because it's returning undefined, and another name for that is void. That isn't the same as short, long, or undefined. And so now we know, without looking at the documentation, just using TypeScript, we can see that compact display should return short, long, or undefined. So what I could probably do is just kind of yeet this and put it in here. And we'll just refactor this. So this was compact display, and we'll do that there, and then we'll call this compact display, and this compact display, and I've just noticed this should be unit display. Cool. So what is wrong now? So narrow is not a valid option. So because I copy and pasted this, narrow is not a valid option for compact display, so we can just get rid of that. And same here, the types were incompatible, and there we go. So the next one, I mean, there's like use grouping. There's a ton of these. It does get pretty outrageous as we start to add all of these, but hey, let's just keep going, I guess. So use grouping should be Boolean, which is a great example of something a bit different, where what we can do with use grouping is we can return this .has attribute use grouping, and this will return a Boolean if this is present and if it has any value. And then in set use grouping, what I find quite useful here is to say this .toggle attribute use grouping based on the value given, and this should be a Boolean or undefined, I guess. So this is slightly different to the way that we do set attribute here. In this case, if we pass in a falsy value, it's going to remove the attribute because we're toggle attribute. The second argument is a Boolean. If the second argument is falsy, this basically does remove attribute. And if it's truthy, then it will do set attribute, but it doesn't set the value on it. It just sets it to an empty string, I think. But yeah, we can then just check for the presence of the attribute. Let's keep going. So we've got nope, not use. We've got trailing zero display. I have no idea what half of these options are, but we'll go with them anyway. Now what is this one? Because this has not seemed to hold me up about the types. Maybe this isn't a valid option. Some of these resolved options, I think, aren't necessarily valid options in the object. I'm not sure though. Tell you what, let's go back to this. So let's implement all of these so we can actually get something working today. So this needs unit, which we don't have. We have unit display, so let's add unit. So this is unit. Unit, and I don't believe unit is, I think unit's a string, and so we're getting kind of mistyped here. If I do this, maybe can I show the type? Number format element unit? No, that's wrong. That's wrong. Oh, I think it's inferring it from here. If I comment this out, yeah, there we go. So it should just be a string. So we can just return. What else do we need? Style. And so the way we can't use style because that would conflict. If I did set style, TypeScript will actually tell me off here because it says, well, if I value string return this dot set attribute style value, see if this does it. Yeah, here we go. So HTML element by default has a style property. We kind of already touched on this here, right? This is why we needed to remove the style from this number format options interface. HTML element has that, and it needs to set a CSS declaration instead. So we can't use that. We've got a conflicting name. We could just call this like format style or something. And then what we can do here, rather than typing them like this, we can also use a shorthand, and we can say intl number format options style. Now this will be typed as this property, and then if any properties get added, you know, it will be updated. Your like component will be compatible with any new options that get added, in theory at least. This needs to be a string, so I'm going to coerce that to a string, and we need the getter for this as well. So get format style, and we're just going to call get attribute. The same is true for this. It's not giving me a TypeScript error, but we can't use the style attribute for this. So this is going to have to be format style 2, but that's no big deal. Cool. What else do we need? So we've got unit display. We haven't got notation, so we should probably have a notation. What is this as well? This needs a return. And I'm guessing this needs one of those. So get notation, and we'll do the same thing here. This will get interesting in a minute, I promise. Whoops. So this is going to be notation, and we'll see what the value is. So the value for notation, standard, scientific, engineering, compact or undefined. Wow, what a load. Okay, so there was, let's have a look at it. Can I just yank this? Oh yeah, there we go. Cool. This needs to be out of these quotes though, and we'll format that. So this now needs to return, this is currently returning a string as inferred by TypeScript. And this needs to return one of these values as well. So we'll do the thing that we did here, and we'll just say const value equals this.get attribute format style. This isn't format style. I don't know what I'm doing. Notation. That should also change to notation. If value is equal to standard, return standard. Return standard. If value is scientific, return scientific. If value is engineering, return engineering. I seem to be accumulating quotes as I go, which is interesting. Compact. Okay, what has gone on here? It doesn't like this for some reason, which is really strange, but anyway. We have a lot of quotes. I think my editor needs tweaking a bit. I have a feeling my editor's gone a bit skew-if. Okay, there we go. This doesn't like something, this doesn't like this. So we can just return here. Again, this might be one of those instances where we could look at the resolved options and we can see if so notation defaults to standard, and if we look at the documentation, notation, yeah, we can see it also says here the default is standard. And so actually what can be quite useful here is if we mimic the documentation and we mimic the interface, rather than returning undefined, we can return standard here. Right, okay, I think we've got enough to try this out. So there's actually, we're not doing anything, we've just got a bunch of attributes, but let's wire this together. So if we go to our, here's our format, we've got text content wave. What I'd be interested to do is examples index HTML. Let's take our constructor. So we did this, right? So if in this number format we said unit is meter, format style, this one's format style is unit, unit display is narrow, and then notation is compact. Let's see if we, right, whoops. And then I think what I would like to do as well is have a value property, and that value property, let's set that to 1,000. Let's put some line breaks here as well. This is cool. Okay. So we've got the same kind of signature that we have here, but we've got it here instead, and it's like serialized as HTML. Now what we can do, we go look at this. If I put some text here as well, it's going to be replaced by the wave. If I get rid of this, yeah, cool. So I think we're going to create render root, which is going to be a shadow root, and we'll follow Elliot's advice and not assign that in outside of the connected callback, but in the connected callback we'll do an attached shadow. It's going to be mode open, and then what I want to do is say, I'm going to call update, I think, and then I'm just going to have a separate update function, because I want to observe all these attributes as well. So I think we're going to call update with that. Anyway, this is going to say this render root. All right, this is the magic, right? We're gonna get the number format. I'm going to say new intel number format. We need a locale. Let's just default that to en, and then we can just pass in this. We can't just pass in this because of the style. But that's okay, because we can say const options equals object.assign. Let's have an empty object, this, and let's pass that in instead. And then in here we can say number format. And then we also need to say style is this dot format style. So number format dot format this dot value, and we want to get value string. Whoops. This is going to return just a get attribute value. Let's have a setter in here as well for set attribute value. This needs value string. Is this going to say about shadowing? I don't know. Oh, it's got a return type annotation and it's got a return value. Okay, cool. So this isn't working, but it should work. What has gone on? Let's find out. Let's debug. Okay, so invalid unit argument for number format. And that is because the unit. I wonder if we do undefined instead. Invalid unit argument. That's interesting. Is it an invalid unit argument? Meter. Unit meter. Let's console log our options object and figure out what has gone on. Oh, so it's style unit. Right. The problem that's happening here is object assign is taking this. It's trying to iterate through all of the keys that this has, but because each of these are non-enumerable, they're getting skipped. And so there's a couple of ways around that. None of them are great. One of them is to say object.define property number format element dot prototype unit object dot get property descriptor number format element dot prototype unit. Oh, this is horrible. Don't do this. Object assign. Well, I guess we can use a spread. I didn't realize. I didn't think about that. But enumerable true. We should get a console log now that has. It doesn't have unit in it. That's peculiar. It should have unit in it. This is a horrible thing to do anyway. This is really gross. We can think of other ways to do this. I mean, the other way to do this, which sucks. I was really hoping that we could pass this directly in, but we can't because of this style, which is a bit of a problem. But the other thing that we could do here is just pluck out each individual key, which again is not the best, but it's whatever. So unit is this dot unit. Style, this dot format style. We need to go through each of these now. This is going to be horrible. Probably the least bad option though, right? So yeah, now we're getting unit meter style unit. Okay, what else? It's all of these. Let's just do the ones that we need. So we need style. We need unit display. Unit display. Unit display. And notation. Okay, so we're getting unit meter, style unit, unit display narrow, notation compact. So this should be passed to this one, which is great. We're getting an error. It says notation is incompatible because string is not assignable. Well, that's not true. What is the type here? Standard, scientific, engineering, or compact. And this says string is not assignable. We're just going to tell TypeScript we know better. I don't know why that's needed. It should have inferred that. I think that's a bug in TypeScript. Okay, we still have nothing. Why do we have nothing? Is this dot value not? Oh, does this need to be coerced to a number? Should we do number here? Go away. This needs to be number. We still have nothing. Oh, that's because I'm an idiot. Yeah, there we go. So we've taken this relatively gnarly amount of HTML, but whatever. We've got this raw value of 1,000, and we've put it in here, and we've got 1 kilometer. I think this is kind of cool. So there's another thing we can do here. We've got the locale already in our HTML document. It says lang equals en. So what we can do is we can say get lang, and I'll keep this as a private field because the default lang already exists on this. But if we look at it, if we go onto this element, where's my console? if I type $0, I've got this number format element. If I type $0.lang, it comes back as an empty string, and that's kind of not what we want. We want to find out what the language is in the document, and there is one. There is one on the HTML element, so we should be able to do this. You might already have some guesses about how we're going to do this, but we're going to say this get attribute lang, or this dot closest, and this dot closest will look for an element that matches this CSS selector, and in this case we're saying the CSS selector is an attribute selector of the attribute lang, and then we're going to find we're going to get the attribute of this, and then we can default to an empty string. And so now we have this. If I plug this in here, this .lang, nothing has changed. But if I change this to DE, you can see that the page is now in German, and this has actually changed to 1,000 meters. I have no idea why this has changed to 1,000 meters, by the way. I guess Germany hasn't invented the kilometer yet. I don't know what's going on there. But we can also say like AR, and we should get the Arabic representation of 1 kilometer. I think this is really cool. So let's go back to Ian. I wonder if ENGB has any specific locale here. No. And so we can represent this in different ways, right? We can have another one. Why don't we try currency? So currency, and we want currency equals, I guess, GBP. Let's go and have a look. We also want to add currency here, I guess. So currency. And now we're displaying nothing. Invalid currency code. Why is this displaying nothing though? That's very interesting. This one should still work, unless I mess that up. Invalid currency code. What is currency? Oh, again, I think this is, okay, so because this is a string, the number format thing is checking. We want to return undefined here. I think if it's undefined, it will ignore it as a property. Yeah, there we go. I don't know why that broke everyone on the page though. That's really bizarre. That shouldn't have broken the other one. I don't like that. Oh, yeah, because it was, yeah, no, that makes sense. So because it was an empty string, it broke everything. This needs to now be string or undefined. Okay, so we've got invalid unit currency. I guess GBP is not a valid currency unit. Let's find out what is. Cool. Good documentation. List of currencies. It did say invalid. Oh, invalid unit. Let's go back. I guess the style. The style needs to be currency as well. So this one needs to be currency. I find these APIs can be a little bit awkward, and this is a great opportunity for us to like be a bit more sensible. Like we could say, rather than throwing an error here, we could say if the unit is currency, format style should be currency, and we can default that in our implementation. But I am conscious that we spent, well, yeah, we've spent nearly an hour on this one. There were some issues at the start, I guess. I don't think we're going to get a second web component done today. Invalid unit argument for number format currency. Invalid unit. Oh, so the unit shouldn't be currency? Okay, cool. So we've got this now. So now if we add, rather than notation compact, if we leave that as the default, we can see this kind of comma thing. So if I change the language now to Yeah, check this out. So this now becomes 1,000 meters. I'm gonna add a break here, make this a little easy. And the decimals have been swapped, or rather I guess the decimals are still there, but like the punctuation has swapped because, again, for reasons I don't know, the Germans like to use a comma instead of a period. You do you. I mean, you know, I'm just acclimated to the other way around. So who knows? Maybe if I grew up in Germany, I'd be like looking at English numbers and being like, why are you using them the wrong way around? This get lang, I want to show why this is actually useful, because what we can now do is we can say like div lang de. We could put a heading in here and close this div out, and then everything inside of this, all of these number formats inside of here will be in this locale, which I am assuming is German. I'm like 90% sure it's German. I should probably check before I like get cancelled for saying D as a... I don't know why I googled D country code or locale code. It is German, yeah. Okay. Phew. So this we can then copy this, and we can change this to say UK notation, and then this can be ENGB, and then we can have a look. And so yeah, we can see here that like here is the UK version, here is the German version. We can, you know, we can also do this on individual elements as well. So lang en here, we'll switch this round, or AR. Yeah. I kind of feel like this is it for this element. I think like we've done a good job. I don't know if it's that interesting watching me copy and paste from a existing implementation like all of these individual values. So I think this is in a good place. I think I'm going to commit this. Let's format this file because it doesn't seem to like some of this. Let's add it all. Commit. Whoop. Yeah, okay, cool. I couldn't remember because we did this on yesterday's stream if this was like a copy or paste, but it wasn't. It's its own repository. Cool. So that's that one pushed. What should we do now? I don't know what to do. There's only 10 minutes left of the stream. I mean, we could try and do a component in 10 minutes, but I don't think it's gonna work. Maybe we can just see what the next component will be. Let me start the rep component roulette, and I need to take it here. All right, let's see what this CSS is off. That's weird. Let's see what the next component is. Okay, stock ticker. Okay, right. Well, I guess that's tomorrow's stream. I mean, I can create the repository. Last 5 minutes, super interesting. Let's do what we always do. Stock ticker element. Ticks stocks, I guess. Yeah, cool. I just realized I created the repository rather than cloning the template. So I'm going to delete this. Stock ticker element. Oh, you want the whole thing? We're going to go to GitHub custom element boilerplate. Custom is not the right one. Okay. Custom element boilerplate. Create new repository. Now I need a single sign-on. Why do I need a single sign-on? Oh no. One moment. I might just have to hide this away. This is this is my work sign-on. It's not working. It's cool. Oh wow, this is really gonna... Okay, let me do this in a different window, in Firefox. Unreal. Create new repository. You're just gonna have to bear with me. What was this stock ticker element? We're definitely not getting this done in the stream, are we? This is maybe the worst thing about working for GitHub is the amount of times you get stung by a single sign-on page because you're using GitHub that's like outside of your... Oh, you think I opened in the code space now, Joe? I probably did. I probably hit the wrong button. I'm not the best when it comes to clicking on things and typing. Okay, we've got it in the other window anyway. Cool. We've got 7 minutes left. Can we do this? Stock ticker element. There's a race against the clock now. Stock ticker element. I'm going to install npm start. Cool. It's here. Right. We wanna move this. Custom stock ticker. I never thought I'd be speed running coding. Stock ticker element. We want to open the examples index HTML. We want to change custom element to stock ticker. This needs to be element. 6 minutes left. Oh, not that. Stock. I don't know why I'm editing a comment. We don't have time for this. Right, custom element needs to be stock ticker element. Okay, we've got the wave. Is this even working? Yeah, this is working. Okay. I should check out abolish.vim. Subvert, can find and replace for different casing. Oh, very cool. I will check that out. I'm opening it up. Thank you, Nojo. Oh, it's Tim Pope. Then it definitely needs to be installed. Okay, render root. No, not new. This dot attach shadow. Mode open. What are we even doing? I don't know what a stock ticker does. Why is this what is this? What is a stock ticker? It does stocks and stuff, right? This is not working for some reason. Render root. It doesn't need this. Why is it not working? Maybe this will give me some insight. Oh, it's working now. That was strange why it didn't compile before. Okay, let's think about this. What does the stock ticker do? We have a maybe index HTML. Maybe it should have an initial value of 100 and then a value of 101, and maybe it should show the up or the down arrow depending. Let's we got 4 minutes to do this. We can do this. Let's say observed attributes, static observed attributes is going to equal value, and we're going to add an attribute change callback. No, it's not in there. Changed callback. The name is only ever value. Old value, new value. We don't have time to write out types. I need to stop typoing. this dot render root text content is going to equal the value. It's going to equal the new value. What is wrong here? Oh, cool. We've been bitten by a bug. Well, it's not really a bug, but it's a bug in our code. It's the problem with attribute change callback is that it can be called before the element is connected. And you can think of it a bit like this. If I were to create an element, let's create an element, and we're going to create our stock ticker element. And now the stock ticker element has been created, but the connected callback hasn't been called. The only way the connected callback is called is when we say document.body.append child st. This will put the element in the document, and then it will call the connected callback. However, if we call set attribute, well, it would have to be value. You can see here this will already call the attribute change callback, and so we need to figure out if we're connected before we do any work in the attribute change callback. Luckily, we have is connected, which is an intrinsic part of HTML element. You can just call is connected, and you, if you spell it right, and you can see it returns false. And if I actually run document.body.append child or append st, is connected now becomes true. And so we can say if we're not connected, just don't do anything, just return early. And this should resolve. He says, I guess that's the benefit of attaching a shadow root before the connected callback. Yeah, I think that is the benefit of attaching a shadow root. I mean, it's also just the case that you shouldn't necessarily access undefined properties, or like, so I think Elliot has a good point about how it can cause issues by like mutating parts of the tree before the element is connected into the DOM, because there's certain expectations about that. And on the other hand, if you like, really this is just a case of us making our code a bit more robust to these kinds of things, because a lot can happen in a custom element. You know, the connected callback can be called multiple times, and so you need to think about, like, if the element is getting added and removed from the DOM, if you were to just call this.attach shadow in like the constructor, you're going to have a singular shadow root, which might not be the thing that you want to do, which is why we want to push as much stuff into the connected callback as possible. Like if this st element that I have that is no longer on here, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm coming down with a cold, I think. So now that I've called document body append st, the connected callback's been fired, the render root will be attached. If I said st.remove, this will call the disconnected callback. There's like a ton of stuff that happens during that cycle, but also if I then append it again, I might not necessarily want the same shadow root structure, because a lot of it could depend on its context, right? And a good example is not coming to mind right now, but I guess like it, you know, if the lang feature that we had with the number format, if I were to pick up that element and put it somewhere else in the document, its context has changed because the lang attribute that it tried to resolve might be different. And so putting stuff in the constructor happens once during this document create element, but the connected and disconnected callbacks can happen many times. I guess it's kind of similar to React and useEffect in that regard. I mean, React's useEffect is kind of like the connected callback, and then I guess the return value is kind of like the disconnected callback. And in React documentation, they say that can happen many times. The use effect can be called many times, or the render function can be called many times. I think it's the same kind of thing here, in that like the life cycle of the element isn't just a linear thing of like it gets connected and then it gets disconnected. Lots of things happen all the time. So each of these needs to be aware of that and kind of work in isolation. Anyway, we are at time, and I think my cough is getting worse as the day goes on. So I think we're going to call it. I hope you had fun, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.